We kind of divided this up here. I'm going to do the intro, and Madhan's going to talk to you about microservices. Before we start, has anyone in here used Meteor or have any familiarity with it? A little bit, yeah. Okay, cool. And if you want to stop either of us and ask questions, feel free to do that. Okay, this is a little bit about me. So I started building websites in the late 90s with single pixel GIFs and tables. Now I work with startups to build their MVPs and prototypes, and I also work full-time at GridSmart as a web services developer. I built an MVP in Meteor for Rescue, which is a startup actually just down the road. And I do front end and back end, primarily in JavaScript, but some Python and PHP too. So let's talk about Meteor. Meteor is an isomorphic framework. That's a fun buzzword. That means that the same code runs on the server and the client. You can build apps that run as web apps, or you can build apps that compile into native mobile apps. Because you don't need as much boilerplate code with Meteor, you can build your apps really quickly with some common functionality. And then when your data changes in the database, those changes are automatically reflected for all your clients on the front end. And you don't have to wire that up, so that's pretty nice. And now I'm going to go into a demo here. So I'm going to show you that it's pretty easy to install Meteor.
Hey, Devon, are you sharing your screen?
Yeah. Was. Your screen sharing. Let me turn it off and turn it back on.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yep, no problem. I think it may be locked up.
I like your picture.
I use this thing that swaps them out for me, so I don't have to try to find cool ones. It does a decent job. Is that better?
Let's see. There we go. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So if you wanted to install Meteor, you would go to the website and click here. It will give you a command to run if you're on macOS or Linux. And if you're on Windows, you can download a binary install. So this just pulls down the framework and all the associated tools. And I'm not gonna force you to work through that. I've already got it installed. So now let's see what it's like to actually create a new project. So you do Meteor create, and then the name of your app. And it downloads some more stuff. But I did prepare for this. So this is what you will get if you successfully set up a project. You just get a really basic scaffold with a style sheet. a template, and then a JavaScript file. Okay, you probably don't want to build a very big app like this because it's not very modular, not easy to maintain. So Meteor recognizes a few special directories that do different things. So there's a client directory and a server directory, and those only run on one or the other. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then you're going to have these if statements, if Meteor is server, if Meteor is client, to separate out your code in a single file. But if you use those folders, you don't have to do that. Then you have directories named lib get loaded first before any of the other JavaScript, and you can put them anywhere. So you can put one in the root, and it'll get loaded on the server and client, or you can put them in client or in server. And then you got a public directory that's good for your static assets, your images, and that just gets served out of the root of the URL, the server. And then you've also got a private directory you can use for assets that you're only going to access through your server. And then you've got a test directory, and you can probably guess what that does. Okay, so let's look at some of this code now. I need to make this bigger. How's that? Is that good for everybody? Okay. All right. So the first line here initializes a Mongo collection. Meteor comes bundled with Mongo, and as of right now, that's the only database that it's natively compatible with. You can download other
drivers.
Yeah, other drivers for MySQL and things like that. But it ships with Mongo, and so you've got the code here. This is only going to run on the server. Okay, and we've got a template helper. I want to skip down here, and we'll go back to some of this other code later. But this is a template helper that will be available in our template. And what it does is it gives us recent messages, and it will pull those messages out of the database. So we can now use recent messages in our template to access that data from our collection.
Can you show the HTML first?
Yeah. Yeah, let's
talk about the template.
So here we're iterating through those messages and displaying each one. So each one has a username and text, which is the body of the message. And so this is just basically handlebars, and you can use other templating systems too. Blaze is the templating engine that Meteor ships with that gives you the reactivity. But the most recent release of Meteor added Angular and React support, so you can use those for your Meteor templates as well. Good. Now I'm going to add some functionality to this app. Actually, first I need to show you what this looks like. Okay, I guess we're going to have to do this.
Yeah.
But this is going to run our development server, and it's really cool. It does live reload, so if I make changes and save them, it will push that to my browser, push those changes to my browser so that I can see the changes right away. And the command line tool that starts the development server is also the same tool you use to for package management and to run your tests.
So for the live reloading, if you had a production site and somebody had some content in that you obviously don't want to refresh their browser, can you give a notification that there's a new version available?
If you push a new version to the production server, it will, my understanding is it will live patch that code in. Is that right?
You can hack into it. There are APIs which will tell how the reloading happens. Then you can click a message there.
Okay.
Is that a new version
So
of
you're
this
not,
code?
you're not stuck with the reload if you don't want that.
And
I see.
Yeah, and one cool thing I found with Meteor is if you just update the server-side code, the client automatically reconnects, so it doesn't have to refresh at all. So it's a very neat feature that I've used. So I fix bugs, and the client would never know.
Nice. Okay, we've got our server running now. Okay, this is our chat app, and actually, I'm going to pull up 2 instances of this so that you can see the reactivity. So this is actually writing to our database collection, our Mongo collection, and it's getting automatically updated on all of the clients. Okay, so let's try to add I guess the most obvious thing that's missing from this is that you're always an anonymous user, which is probably not ideal for a chat app. We want to be able to log in, and when someone sends a message, we want to display their username alongside the message. So let's go ahead and set that up. I'm going to add a few packages. So I've got Meteor add, and that will actually install new packages from the package for it. So I'm installing accounts UI, accounts password, and accounts Facebook. That's going to accounts UI gives us the login form and the create user form. Accounts password gives us just a basic username and password authentication system, and accounts Facebook lets people on their Facebook.
And these are official packages.
Yeah, these are official packages.
Where do you see those packages or search through those packages?
So
there's a web interface to the repository, and it's atmosphere. So like here are the
trending ones.
trending and recent, and then there's the search at the
So
top.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you just scroll up a little bit? You can see, just search for, you can see LD auto form. That means that's a private, not private.
It's like a
third party. Sorry,
Yeah.
third party package, and it's trending about 7,000 packages, and you can imagine all kind of stuff: jQuery, calendar, Angular. A lot of tools, a lot of integration with other services and stuff like that. So you would do the same thing like Devon showed, where you would say Meteor add LD auto form, and then you get that package installed on your. So the command line interface that Meteor ships with is pretty powerful.
Yeah. And you can also wrap node packages so that Meteor apps can access those too. Okay. Oh, I'm running a project directory. Okay, so while that's downloading, I'm going to make a couple of changes in the code here. I've actually got some of this code in already. So now what we're going to do is when the send message method gets called, we're going to make sure that there's a user logged in, and if not, we're going to throw an error. We're also going to configure our accounts package so that users can use a username instead of an email address, which is the default. And we want to display their username instead of that. So meteor.user username.
Can you talk about
Minimongo? Sure. Minimongo is a client-side implementation of MongoDB. And so it gives you most of the functions you have on server-side Mongo on the client. And I'm a little fuzzy on how this works exactly, but it mirrors well, you send parts of your actual database to the client and expose that to them so that it can be displayed and used in your app through subscriptions and publications. So you publish the parts of the data that you want your users to have access to, and then you subscribe to those publications in order to actually get them into your templates or wherever you happen to need them. Okay. So, oh, I forgot one piece. We need we need this in our template as well. Oh, I closed you out, didn't I, Cody?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, so now we've got our sign-in UI here. I'm going to make a new account. Okay, now I'm logged in. And that's it. That quickly we were able to add authentication and get it implemented on the front end as well. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay, so let's talk about why you would want to use Meteor. So the first thing is it's sort of a batteries included framework, and I guess that's kind of a double-edged sword. But it's nice because it gives you the speed to build something really quickly, and you don't have to make a lot of decisions. You don't have to figure out what your database is going to be. Those decisions are kind of already laid out for you. And that just gives you the freedom to focus on some of the more important business requirements that you're trying to meet with your app. It's easy to learn. That's subjective, but I've not ever talked to anyone who had a lot of difficulty learning Meteor, so I think it's generally true. And if you leave this talk and you decide you want to go a little deeper, there's a great book called Discover Meteor that gives you a really nice intro to the framework. It's easy to build and debug. The command line tool gives you package management, a development server. It compiles Sass and Less and CoffeeScript for you, and it allows you to debug with Node Inspector. So it's really a nice suite of tools that will help you through your development. And then it's a robust and growing ecosystem. Atmosphere is the package manager, and they have over, well, they have, at the time I wrote this, nearly 7,500 packages. I'm sure they've exceeded that at this point. And you can wrap your existing JavaScript front-end packages or your Node packages so that you can use them in your Meteor app. And now let's think about why you would not want to use it. So it's great for single-page web apps, but if you're building a website where your focus is kind of on serving up some content, it's maybe not the best fit. If you already have the backend, or if you're only building a backend, like if you're only building an API, then Meteor probably has a lot more than what you need. And then, yeah, it's just overkill in those two scenarios. So I'm going to turn it over to Madhan, and he will tell you about microservices.
See the screen?
Yeah.
I've got your camera. There we go. May want to mute your audio too. Yeah. Or not.
All right.
Good job. Thanks.
So hi everyone, I'm Madhan Sundaram. A little about me, I worked as Director of Technology at Fireworks, a startup in energy efficiency space, past 2 years. Previously I worked at Spallation Neutron Source, ORNL, for the past 12 years, and I've touched most of the languages, some very popular packages. I call myself jack of all trades, master of none. So, learning new language comes naturally. I don't know. So the reason I stumbled upon Meteor was when Mongo got introduced, I really liked it because it was high throughput database that you can write it as fast as possible, and then it was very simple. The way I understood was it is just a key value store that I can store stuff, and the tailed cursor was a great feature. I really loved it and used it at the lab for one of my pet projects, and it was a good learning experience. And then back then, real-time frameworks were just coming up. There was a JavaScript library called Now.js. I don't know if anybody had heard about it. It helped the server variable be available on your client and stuff like that. And it went away within a few months because Meteor was there. So Meteor took over the whole space, and then the reactivity is a great concept, and you don't have to do much in terms of bringing in the whatever you put into your database to your client directly and manipulating it. Anyways, so in this talk, I'm going to talk about microservice, just the overview, what is it, and why with Meteor. I'll show you a small demo, a short demo. And I have a slide on resources. It's not exhaustive. I mean, I have a few very good links that you can use to find, will help you get started. If you have questions, there are Meteor forums that people will be happy to answer. There are hundreds of Slack channels that you can subscribe to, and stuff like that. And I say questions here, but feel free to ask questions as we talk. So I'm sure you can look it up on Wikipedia, but the main important stuff I wanted to stress is independent process communication with other language agnostic APIs. REST has covered the space very well. To me, at least, from a naive perspective, REST is one way, right? You set it up. Somebody has to ask it, give me something, and then it gives you something, and then there's no two-way communication. But with Meteor, there is an underlying protocol called DDP, Distributed Data Protocol, and it comes with Meteor inbuilt, in the sense they support it 100%. And all the communication happens through DDP over WebSockets, so it makes it really easy to build a microservice. So for example, I mean, even with Meteor, you can build a monolithic application your code base can grow really big and become unmanageable, and sometimes performance gets a big hit. Or if you want to just fix one piece of the code, the other piece might get affected. But so this is an example of Uber's architecture, how they went from a monolithic architecture to a microservice architecture. I mean, this is here as an example. I don't know whether Uber uses Meteor or not, but this is just an example to show you a microservice architecture can look like this. So individual pieces can exist all by themselves, and then they talk through a common interface. In this case, REST APIs. So why microservices with Meteor is, as I said, DDP over data sockets, sorry, WebSockets, not data sockets. Inter-process communication is very simple. How many of you are C# developers? I'm sure you're familiar with named pipes and other XML communication paths. And probably, I mean, I've done C# stuff. It was very hard for me to make two processes communicate. Probably my naive approach was not, it was a naive approach. But you'll see when I do the demo, it's just one line of code that will just make two processes talk. So it was kind of magic for me when I first started exploring microservices. And as I said, it's the same stuff that connects your web browser and other clients, even your mobile application and such. And now your server can be a client too. One server can talk to another server, and it's all through DDP. And they get access to what we call inside Meteor subscriptions and methods. Methods are, you can imagine, like a REST call that you can define certain portions. Subscriptions are live, in a sense. You subscribe to an update from a collection, and then you automatically get updated. You don't even have to ask, do you have a new entry in here, it'll just come over the pipe. I'm sure many of you thinking, oh, that's security risk and stuff like that. There are ways that you can mitigate insecurity. So I'm going to show you a small demo. Before that, I want to show you what I'm going to show you. So I have, I'm going to show you service 1 and service 2 are going to talk to this log service, and they will call a server method. I'll show you what a server method is, and it will show up on the web interface of the log service. So there are 3 independent Meteor projects, but they're going to talk to each other. It's a little bit small. Okay, what I have here, is it command plus?
Command plus, yeah. It may only work on the editor. It may
Yeah.
not work on.
So what I have here is I have one main folder and 2 subfolders. One of the folders is called Service 1, which is a simple Meteor project. And then Devon mentioned about the folder structure that Meteor recognizes. And if you put any code under the client folder, they will be run on client only. And if you put it under server folder, all of those will be run only on server. And you can, if you put it outside these 2 folders, you can call them anything actually. Sorry. I call them both. And if you put any code under this directory, it will be run on both server and client. I mean, you might, so in that way you can restrict which part of the code is exposed to the client. If you're security conscious, you don't have to expose all your code on the client. Okay. So there I have 2 folders, log service and service 1. I'm going to go to service 1 directory. I've already added a package. Which I will show you how to add that. Okay. So Meteor Hacks is a third-party library which has they have a library called Cluster, which can do much more than microservices, but they have microservices support in them. All it does is there are DDP JavaScript libraries out there. They've just packaged them together and then and given us as a library to use it under that namespace. So I have an app.js file in here, and so the cluster is from that package. The object is from that package. All you say is cluster connect to a central Mongo database. I call them cluster. You can call them anything that you want. This package will recognize connect to a central database. So if you imagine, if you just forget number 2 and 3, all the microservices will have this first line so that they all go and register themselves saying, I'm here, you can connect to me. And the second one is you declare the name of this service. I just took the name as service 1. You can name it anything you want. And then I'm connecting to the log service using this command called discover connection and log service. So you can imagine log service would have a similar line like this, cluster register. I can show you really quick right here. And then it connects back to service 1 in this case. So that makes it 2-way communication. And that's all the definition you need for microservices. And these 2 apps can already talk to each other. So let me go so let me show you what's there on the client side. Is very simple. On the HTML side, this is a default HTML page that that ships with Meteor, when you say create, all I've done is I've taken that. So if you press a button, it'll increment a counter. And then it just has a session variable. It increments a session variable and then returns it here. And if you click a button, this is what happens. And then this is the magic, right? So you say Meteor call, that means you're going to call a server method. This is like your AJAX call. You just call from the client, your server method responds by capturing that event. And in there, I call a microservice, the log service. So the idea is when I click a button on this client, it internally calls the other microservice. And so let's look at log service just for a second and what it has. It has a server method called log, and it's a very simple database insert. That's it. So let's go fire it up. Oh, I usually use a small script to start my apps. Those are pretty simple. I just export a Mongo URL, so I can use a central database. So Meteor ships with it. Each Meteor project has Mongo local. If you want to build applications, they have a reason for doing that. So it's all self-contained stuff, but that's only for your development. When you go for a production application, you want to have a separate Mongo instance serving several clients, right? So you can point to a central database like this by exporting this environment variable, and I have a root URL here. Since I'm running locally, I have to use ports, and then I use this Meteor command to start this application on port 630. Second. So in the meanwhile, I'll go. So I'm going to start the log service also. The startup command looks exactly or looks very similar, except the port number is different. So as soon as they come up, the cluster package has code in there which connects to these microservices automatically using the central database. So we can see our app is already up and running. So I'm running on port 6020 for this one. So that's a simple logger. If I click a button, it says from service 1, the count. So you can see the count getting incremented here and then being passed to this simple logger. It logs everything. So that's very simple, right? So let's see how easy is it to build another service. I'm just copying the whole code. I'm just going to call this service 2 and then change the port number because it's.
So that discover connection, if the service that you're trying to discover is not started yet, it will just continue to
It'll
pull
wait
until it
Yeah.
until it starts.
And if it crashes and can't deregister, how does,
So
if you restarted it, how would it
The cluster package handles all those. So when it goes away, it throws an error so that you can detect in your application that the other service has closed. And then once it connects, it issues, there is a status command that you can check whether the thing has come up or not. So you can do everything manually. So I think I've done everything.
you have to listen on the log service?
No, the cluster package takes care of it. So what I'm demonstrating is as a new service comes up, you don't have to do anything. The log service already can listen to this. Because you can see the service 2 is discovering log service.
Right.
In this case. Right?
You go back to that last page. You got an extra character there.
Oh.
Service to,
What is that?
So let's say start. Oh, no. So you can see some of the commands that are here. So it spits out what cluster is doing. It's connecting to the backend database, and then it's registering this node as service 2, and it gives you that URL, whatever you want to have it. I mean, imagine you can have these apps running on different servers with a central, oh, I didn't change this. I can change that. So if we actually will change. So Meteor, as you're developing code, automatically detects changes in code. Now we see the client modified, and it refreshes the client. Now you got it. So it's a great feature when you're developing. So now you can see if I click here, you get service 2, which is already here, and it keeps track of the counts. And if I click from here, it knows where it comes from. I mean, it's like I passed that object to that log service, but all I wanted to demonstrate is how easy it is to do a microservice. So you can think of your, if you have a big application, you develop some code, and then one day you think, oh, I could use this log service in another project, right? So, or you can have a development only logger, right? So that's only for your development purposes, that you can spin it out separately, keep them separate, and then as you're developing all these, or imagine you turn on a debug command, you don't have to go subscribe to Logger. There are several logging services. You can build your own. It's pretty easy. I mean, other microservices like that, you can separate your code. It's easy to maintain, right? So you can write tests for a specific portion. So because of the cluster package, a cluster can do many things. They can do what a load balancing in a different way. So you can bring these microservices up at any time. When your load increases, the cluster package can automatically redirect traffic to that microservice. So it's a pretty cool thing that Meteor is trying to solve, and it's very interesting where the whole web development is going. in terms of connected clients. I think Meteor was built from mobile first perspective. And I'm sure there are other packages which do similar things, but Meteor, as Devon mentioned, comes with batteries included. You can do a lot of stuff pretty quickly. If you want to do a small side project or a big full-blown project for a client, I would recommend you use Meteor. Yes, sir.
So in this case, for both of these services, you're explicitly calling to your logger to
Yes.
log. I know that it's reactive by default. Is there a way to have your logging service be reactive and basically listen to subscribed events from specific services?
Yeah. So I think I've not done it here, but if you see in Logger, I can connect back to service 1, service 2 like that. So now I have access to their methods and subscriptions, and they can reactively update my logger. So that's why I say it's two-way communication without you much having to do anything, basically. So, okay, let me go back to my presentation. So that's what the demo was. And there are design patterns, right? So Devon mentioned packages. Packages are very powerful. You see the whole ecosystem of packages. And imagine you can, by doing this microservices, you can be your own services company, which offers certain services to DDP. I recently heard Mailgun, the email provider, is supporting DDP. So it's only a matter of time where other big providers are going to jump in and provide DDP support, so your app can have two-way communication without much code or much effort. And there are libraries available for other languages too. There are Python libraries, I think there are Java libraries. So your non-Meteor application now can talk to Meteor application and can exchange data. REST is not the only way that you can do it. You can do DDP also. And if you're interested in having big projects, if you want design patterns, there is a website called meteorpatterns.com. And in there I found this where you can combine packages, which you can install locally on a project, or you can package and also microservices together. So you can host the package as a microservice or vice versa. So it was pretty interesting. So these are the resources. I have it in the slide. I'll be happy to share slides, our slides with anybody who's interested. There is official Meteor site, which Devon showed. It's pretty awesome. It does, I mean, if you're skeptical that this is not going to stick around for a long time, I don't want to commit myself to learning something new, you can see their, their growth and their blog posts, and what are the other companies they're using here, and their training available. And they started Galaxy, which is currently a little expensive for a hosting service, is expensive for others, but there are other services like Modulus.io and others who provide similar support and at a much cheaper cost. But you can always roll your own. If you have a Linux box, there is a package called Meteor Up. You can search it online on Google. The project will come up. It's an NPM package. It's the same. It's very similar to Meteor command line. You just say Meteor Up, and then it will install all of your code as a Node.js package onto your service, onto your server. So it's pretty cool. And there are like code samples and recipes. Meteor Chef, this is an awesome. I mean, he talks about, he gives you the whole recipe, step by step, how to build applications. There are a lot more than what I'm showing here. He has a free Slack channel. You can go in there and ask questions. He answers. And there's Meteor Cookbook. They're currently doing Meteor Guide for everybody.
But until that's get done, this is the best resource available. And there are lots and lots of use cases and how to do stuff here. And this is the book that Devon mentioned, Discover Meteor. I mean, nowadays everybody starts to write a book and charges as they go, right? So they write few chapters, and if you want access to other chapters, you have to pay. But I mean, you don't have to pay to learn Meteor. There are other sources. But if you want a disciplined way of learning, Discover Meteor is a very good source. This guy I started doing a podcast now, so mostly code podcast. If you're in the car wanting to know more about Meteor, you can listen to his podcast. And there is a video walkthrough for Meteor microservices on YouTube, and this was posted online from Meteor NY group, and it's pretty interesting. And then if you have questions about how to debug Meteor, and there's a whole blog post on that. There are several tools. I mean, I really like Meteor Shell. It gives you access to your server side. You can, you can access server variables and run methods in there to see what's going on and stuff like that. And there are IDEs available. I use Atom.io IDE. There's paid versions like WebStorm.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. I mean, they have inbuilt debugging functions in there. It's like they went into a subscription service now.
Yeah.
It's like $6 a month or something.
I think so.
And another awesome resource, thanks to Cody, we have Knox Devs. So I hang out here on the Meteor JS Slack channel. And please feel free to ask questions. If you're stuck in a project, I mean, I'll be happy to help. And I'm sure Devon will also be happy to help.
Sure.
And there are hundreds of resources online. I encourage you to try it out and give us a shout out on Meteor JS Slack.
Excellent. Open it up for questions. I know we've got about 10 more minutes here during our, about 8 minutes here during our normal time run. So does anybody have any last minute questions that they'd like to get in there? All right, I know that was a whole lot of really great information, so let's you kind of digest on that again. We'll come up on the Slack channel, though, to field more questions, and the whole community can kind of benefit from those as well. So, guys, thank you very much for coming out and presenting today. I really appreciate it. I know everybody else here did, too, and the food was fantastic, so thank you, April. Guys, we'll kind of meander around a little bit, but for those of you who are just super eager, go ahead and head back to work. All right.
Thank you, David. One last thing I wanted to mention is there's a Meteor Space Camp at Pigeon Forge, not hosted by us, unfortunately, by one of the Meteor enthusiasts. And unfortunately, they're sold out now, but that event is going to be broadcasted live. So I'll post a link so you can, if you're interested, you can watch all of it. Thank you.